Hi everyone! This time, Terrifying Trios focuses on a truly delightful aspect of modern horror, self-awareness. That's right, the characters in the following movies and book understand early on that they're in a horror story, and they try to act accordingly. Content warning. The following movies and book contain scenes of death and violence, including stabbings, violence toward animals, people being consumed and digested, bloody carnage, children disappearing, spiders, snakes, and rats, or some mix of the three, attacking, fire, lightning, creepy dolls, the dead returning to life, being buried alive, general gore, and death. Viewer and reader discretion is advised. Our first movie is Scream, and though it's the fifth film in the series, it's one of the best of the bunch. Released this year and taking place in the present day, it follows residents of the town of Woodsboro 25 years after the original Ghostface murders. When high school student Tara Carpenter is stabbed by an attacker wearing a Ghostface mask, her older sister Sam, accompanied by her boyfriend, Richie, reluctantly returns to her hometown to see her sister in the hospital. Though Sam and Tara had the same mother, Sam's father was actually Billy Loomis, one of the killers from 25 years ago. While visiting Tara, Sam meets her younger sister's group of friends, Amber, twins Chad and Mindy, and Wes, named for the late Wes Craven. When a second person is attacked by the new killer, and this time they die, Sam and Richie visit Dewey Riley, looking for help. Dewey, by this time, has been asked to retire from the police force, and his only contact with his ex-wife, Gail Weathers, is seeing her on TV. Dewey reluctantly joins the couple, and at the twins' house, the group realizes that everyone attacked so far has had some connection to the killers of 25 years ago. The concept of a requel is raised here. Containing elements of both a remake and a sequel, it seems that the new killer is building on the legacy of the originals, while also adding new elements. So while everyone present is a potential victim, it seems clear that they are also potential suspects. This possibility worries Sam, who's on medication that's meant to prevent the hallucinations she sometimes has of her murderous late father, Billy Loomis. Dewey leaves the twins' house to call and warn both Gail and Sidney Prescott, who each live far from Woodsboro. Soon after, the killer attacks Wes at home and then murders his mother, Sheriff Hicks. After these murders, the masked killer appears at the hospital where Tara is recovering from being stabbed, and though Sam is able to rescue her sister, Dewey is stabbed to death. Dewey's murder convinces Sidney and Gail to return to Woodsboro. Neither wants to be there, but they're determined to stop the new killer. Meanwhile, Sam wants to get Tara out of town. That seems to be the only way to keep her sister safe, and so far, both Sam and Richie appear to have alibis, so neither wants to be accused of murder either. But before they can leave, Tara needs her inhaler. She keeps a spare at her best friend Amber's house, and it is close to the highway. So the trio, knowing full well that things might end very badly, stops at Amber's house, where a party is in full swing. As the party begins to break up, both twins are attacked. And guess what? This is the rare movie where I'm not going to reveal the ending. There are several satisfying misdirects, and characters try to carefully consider who the killer might be in the interest of not getting murdered. But of course, it helps that Sam is not alone. Yes, she's the final girl here, but she has Sidney and Gail helping her, and she also has visions of Billy Loomis to assist her in taking out a murderer. I rate this entertaining film 3 out of 4 Ghostface masks. Our next movie is Nope, the third film written and directed by Jordan Peele. Our story begins with a quote, Nahum 3:6. I will cast abominable filth upon you, make you vile, and make you a spectacle. On a TV soundstage, something terrible has happened, but we don't know exactly what until a bit later, after we meet the Haywood family. Otis Jr., O.J. Haywood, was working on his family's horse ranch the day his father died. In a freak accident, Otis Haywood Sr. was struck by a coin that, investigators believed, fell from a plane. It dropped at terminal velocity, hitting Haywood in the head and lodging in his brain, and though O.J. rushed his father to the hospital, he was dead soon after. We rejoin O.J. later. He's working to keep the family business going, which entails being the animal wrangler on film and TV sets. His younger sister Emerald is a better pitchman, but we meet her arriving late for a job and promoting herself instead of Haywood Hollywood horses. The shoot doesn't go well. The horse is spooked, and on their way home, Emerald learns that O.J. has been selling horses to Jupe, who owns the ranch and tourist attraction not far from the Haywoods Ranch, in hopes of buying them back when business improves. When the siblings go to meet with Jupe, Emerald is surprised to find that he's the former child star of a TV series called Gordy, which starred a young Asian boy, Jupe, his adopted white family, and a chimp named Gordy. It's at this point that we learn that the soundstage scene at the beginning of the film was the scene of a tragedy involving the show's titular star, Gordy the chimp. In the show's second season, startled by the popping of a balloon, Gordy attacked and severely injured several people. Young Jupe watched in horror from beneath a table partially covered with a cloth as his co-stars were mangled, and then Gordy the chimp was shot right in front of him. Now an adult, Jupe speaks of this trauma to Emerald with a kind of bemusement. He doesn't talk about it so much as talk around it, referencing the Saturday Night Live sketch that resulted from what was, for him, one of the worst days of his life. Of course, making comedy from something so horrible might seem grotesque, but for Jupe, this is probably the only way that he can safely discuss his trauma, from a distance, praising actors who satirized his pain. Now he owns a ranch where he lives with his wife and 3 kids, and the horses he's been buying from OJ are part of a Wild West show. Jupe's experiences relate to the Bible quote at the beginning of the film. His life has been defined by spectacle, and the Haywood siblings are about to become a part of the strange spectacle that began with their father's death. It's at this point that OJ and Emerald experience something strange. A horse gets out late that evening, and OJ goes to get it. The power inside the house briefly goes out, and OJ and Emerald realize that there's something in the sky, something that takes the spooked horse and disappears. And in daylight, OJ notices that there's a cloud floating near the ranch that doesn't move, doesn't change, no matter how long you watch it. Both siblings are unsure about what they might be witnessing, so they go to an electronics store to buy security cameras. The man who rings them up, Angel, later comes out to the ranch to install the cameras and demonstrate how they work. Angel mentions that UFOs aren't called that anymore. They're called UAPs. He's clearly fishing, and he suspects the pair of hiding something strange based on the very little they've revealed. But the siblings aren't ready to start talking about aliens or flying saucers. First, they want proof. The first villain of this film is, surprisingly, a praying mantis. That night, it climbs onto one of the cameras, covering the lens. So when the object flies over the ranch for the second night in a row, Emerald can't get the bug to move in time to capture evidence of their mysterious visitor. Meanwhile, OJ is following another spooked horse, and he's able to take shelter in time to avoid being taken up into whatever the craft above them is. As it turns out, whatever's in the sky causes electrical glitches. It emits a kind of EMP field, so even if it weren't for the praying mantis, a traditional security camera system won't work to capture evidence of the strange flying object. And it turns out that Jupe is attempting to incorporate the thing in the sky into his Wild West show. As you can imagine, there are consequences. An observer watching this film can see how this could go very badly, because no one knows what this thing is, or what it wants, except that it has been sucking horses up into the sky, never to be seen again. The problem for Jupe is that, after surviving Gordy's attack as a child, he makes the very human error of assigning meaning to things that happen to him. He treats the appearance of the thing in the sky as a sign. Maybe this is what he's meant to do. Maybe he survived all those years ago, so he can be part of the first contact between humans and aliens. Because the thing has appeared several times without causing harm to humans, the horse disappearances aren't counted, Jupe believes that the thing is behaving in a way that's predictable. He seems to think that, unlike Gordy, it won't suddenly lash out. But he's wrong. This is another movie that I'm not going to reveal the ending of. I'll simply say that the Haywood siblings are refreshing protagonists in a film like this, because their self-awareness leads them to make good choices. They don't want to be like the usually white idiots that get killed in every horror movie. Instead, they strategize, work as a team, and they use their strengths to survive. For Emerald, this means contacting a filmmaker whose name she got from the call sheet at the shoot that began the movie. He's old enough and loves old filmmaking techniques enough that he brings a wind-up camera to the ranch. Finally, a way to collect evidence without needing electricity. OJ, for his part, is able to use his knowledge of horses to elicit a response from the thing in the sky. He recognizes that eye contact, or lack thereof, is important, and he doesn't make Jupe's mistake of treating the thing as something predictable or safe. OJ understands that you can't approach non-humans with human assumptions. Angel, too, is able to think on his feet and not become the sort of collateral damage that a secondary character like him would usually be in this type of horror movie. I've read essays about this film, and as someone who sees a lot of movies, there's so much to love here and encourage repeated viewing. The air dancers, no unnecessary romantic subplot, characters making intelligent choices. Even Jupe, though doomed as he is, his choices make sense in the context of his character and what we know about him from the story of Gordy. The Akira slide near the end. This movie is one of the best and most entertaining films of the year. Our book this month is Hide and Seeker by Daka Herman. In this middle grade horror novel, our main character is Justin, and over a year ago, his best friend Z vanished. Now, Z has just as suddenly reappeared. It's a hot summer day when Justin joins his friends Nia and Lyric for Z's welcome home party. Justin's mom died the week after Z's disappearance, so he really wants this to be a good thing, a happy reunion. But it's not. Z's changed, and after a game of hide and seek at the party comes to a sudden end, something happens. The kids who played began to disappear. First to go was Shay, who supposedly wasn't at the party at all. She was at dance camp, 2 hours away, when she was reported missing. Then Carla's brother Quincy tells Nia, Lyric, and Justin that his sisters vanished too. What begins with a strange mark on each kid's arm ends in each being pulled into a place called Nowhere, a shadowy world controlled by something called the Seeker, who wants to make a new home in our world. Justin is determined to make sure all the kids get home, but escaping means that everyone will have to face their deepest fears, because the Seeker feeds on fear, and some kids have been captive for years. Others have been trapped for decades. And Justin's not mom, as he calls her, doesn't want Justin to leave. Ever. Since this novel is middle grade, there's almost no gore, but there are plenty of disturbing images and ideas. Much like Coraline is a deeply scary novel, for the relatable fears it explores. For one thing, anxiety about how your parents really feel about you. This satisfying story is perfect for readers looking for scares that explore a nightmarish world of fear, as well as the very real challenge of coping with grief and loss. It's not lost on Justin that just as he becomes the 399th kid that the Seeker has taken, it's been 399 days since his mom died. Also, Justin does have to claw his way out of his mom's open and empty grave when he first arrives in Nowhere. He and his friends are self-aware in the sense that they quickly reject the notion that there's a logical explanation for the disappearances of local kids. Instead, when they see Quincy vanish while wearing his backpack, they use the time they have before being taken to plan ahead and pack supplies that can be used against the fears conjured by the Seeker. Something important to note here is that self-awareness doesn't guarantee survival for any character in these stories. However, it does improve their odds of not dying horribly, and it's no coincidence that nearly every surviving protagonist here is either a woman and/or a black or brown person. These stories remind us that being female and/or a person of color means you have to move through the world differently than those who don't have to live with the dangers of racism and sexism. You face different challenges, and you live with the knowledge that if you die a terrible, violent death, some people will blame you for your own demise. Why were they there alone? Why did they do that? Some people will ask. Why didn't they make better choices? Of course, the answer is that life is complicated, and there's no planning or preparing for every potential pitfall. But self-awareness, if nothing else, can help you stay alive. Knowing yourself gives you a better sense of what to watch out for. Thanks for listening, and I'll be back again soon with another terrifying trio.